Hello and welcome to Scout Report, where we're taking advantage of the break in the season to look ahead, not just at what the run-in might bring, but to the future of the game itself. While managers like Juergen Klopp and Pep Guardiola continue to dominate the international football scene, the rest of the coaching landscape is in turmoil. Once great tacticians like Jose Mourinho and Carlo Ancelotti have been reduced from bossing the biggest teams in the sport to a place among the chasing pack. Talents like Mauricio Pochettino and Max Allegri have spent long periods on the sidelines, and teams like Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea and Bayern have turned to former players to oversee rebuilds. That leaves us wondering who the super clubs are likely to target next, and no young manager has more admirers than Julian Nagelsmann. Formerly of Hoffenheim and at 32, 2 months younger than David Luiz, Nagelsmann has built on the good work of Ralf Hasenhüttl and Ralf Rangnick at RB Leipzig this campaign, keeping an inexperienced squad in the hunt for serious silverware. The German, who is yet to complete 4 years in the dugout, has already been linked with Tottenham as a Mourinho replacement and touted as the heir to Juergen Klopp at Liverpool. But what is it that sets him apart from other coaches? As you all know by now, Nagelsmann got his start at Hoffenheim, having led the club's under-19s to the youth title in 2014. Recognising the talent they had on their hands, Hoffenheim gave him a pre-contract to become their head coach in 2015, with the intention that he'd actually take up the position before the 2016-17 campaign. A schedule brought forward when then-manager Huub Stevens resigned in February 2016 due to health problems, with the side in serious trouble. Nagelsmann took charge of a team sitting 17th of 18 in the Bundesliga, having won just twice all year. In 20 games they had amassed just 14 points. But while critics were concerned about the then 28-year-old Nagelsmann's ability to motivate a squad in which a quarter of the players were older than him, they needn't have worried. Hoffenheim would go on to win 7 and draw 2 of their final 14 league fixtures, going from a side which took 0.7 points per game to one which took 1.6, a rate which would have put them 4th across the whole season. That's exactly where they ended up the following campaign. Though the club actually made £9 million in the summer transfer window, they went through the entire first half of the season unbeaten, a 17-game streak, and lost only 4 times all year, making the Champions League for the first time of 2 in Nagelsmann's 3-year tenure. In his whole time in Baden-Württemberg, Nagelsmann won 40% of his games and scored nearly 2 goals a match with a side whose strikers included Kramaric, Belfodil, Sandro Wagner and Mark Uth. Not useless, but not world-class either. In fact, between 2016 and 2019, Hoffenheim amassed 191 points, more than any side in Germany except Dortmund and Bayern. No wonder that when Ralf Hasenhüttl left RB in 2018, Director of Football Ralf Rangnick took charge of the team himself for a year, so that he could bring Nagelsmann to Leipzig. Nagelsmann has already shown that he can get value out of almost any player, but perhaps his most important characteristic is his enthusiasm for innovation. Though nicknamed Mini Mourinho as an assistant coach, he is much more flexible than his namesake, and at Hoffenheim was quick to embrace new technology, demanding that club owner Dietmar Hopp funded improvements to the facilities at the training ground. TSG were among the first teams in the world to use the Footballnaut technique training machine, while Nagelsmann also used drones to get aerial views of different formations and installed a huge screen in the middle of the training pitch, which allowed him to pause and rewind footage to correct problems instantaneously. This attention to detail began in Nagelsmann's early 20s, when he worked as an opposition scout for Augsburg. Having played for the club before a sequence of knee injuries ended his playing aspirations, he completed a degree in sports and training science before returning to Augsburg as an assistant to the second-team coach, Thomas Tuchel. Influenced by Tuchel's front foot style and his admiration for attacking teams like Barcelona and Arsenal, Nagelsmann began to develop his own ideas for a high-pressing game, which would allow his team to win the ball high up the pitch, where the route to goal is shorter and the defence is unprotected. On this chart, red shows that a team presses more than average in that zone of the pitch, while black shows they press less than average. And you can see the pressure Leipzig exert in their opponent's half, with midfielders moving forward and attackers coming back to pincer opponents from both sides. The result of this is that they don't have to defend in their own area to limit shots, with only Bayern allowing fewer than their 10.2 shots against per game, as well as allowing them to win possession back quickly and attack in numbers. As a consequence, Nagelsmann is able to get more out of his attackers than anyone could expect. At Hoffenheim, who also pressed in this pattern, Nagelsmann got at least 2 players into double figures in the Bully every campaign. Belfodil and Kramaric got 33 combined in 18-19, Uth and Kramaric got 27 the year before, and Wagner and Kramaric 26 the year before that. Now, with the most talented attack he's ever had, Nagelsmann has crafted a scalpel offense, with Werner and Sabitzer boasting 29 between them after 25 games. In fact, 6 players have over 0.4 expected goals and assists per 90, while even Liverpool in the Prem have just 4 players above that mark. And while you might imagine that he supercharged Timo Werner's output by turning him into a pure poacher, with the youngster taking more shots at 4.5 per 90 than ever before, he's also much more involved in general play, completing more passes and creating more chances per game than at any point in his career, and putting up the second best dribble numbers he's ever managed as well. By focusing on the collective and making the team work together, Nagelsmann is able to cover for the deficiencies of limited players in both attack and defence. And in getting even more out of Werner and other young talents like Christopher Nkunku and Nordi Mukiele, he's shown he can coax more out of stars as well, suggesting that his methods should transfer well to the very highest level. One of the easiest ways to get to that level is by showing an ability to beat the best sides, and that's still a work in progress for Nagelsmann. Across his time with both Hoffenheim and Leipzig, he's managed 3 wins, 7 draws and 6 losses in 16 games against Germany's Big Two, Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich. That shakes out to a point per game, which certainly isn't spectacular, but we'd expect it to tick up now he has talent capable of competing with those teams. And, given the gulf in resources he's generally had to work against, it's a perfectly respectable record. The same goes for his performance in the Champions League. Though Nagelsmann never won a game in the competition with Hoffenheim, facing a tough group featuring Man City as well as strong Lyon and Shakhtar sides, he was able to adapt his plans to different opponents. In the 14 games he's managed in the competition, his teams have used 10 different formations, and they've demonstrated that Nagelsmann's attacking scheme works in the world's most difficult club tournament, scoring 25 goals in 14 matches, or 1.8 a game. And the move to Leipzig has already seen the manager begin to overcome his European hoodoo. The Red Bulls have won 5 and lost 1 of his 8 games in charge in the UCL, taking more shots than any side except Bayern, Real Madrid and Liverpool, and still conceding just 10.6 a game, barely more than in domestic play. Their round of 16 steamrolling of Tottenham 4-0 on aggregate showed that Nagelsmann has the goods on the pitch, as he became the youngest manager ever to take charge of a UCL knockout fixture, but perhaps it's his behaviour off it which will ultimately make him a success. Many managers in recent years have let go of the Alex Ferguson idea of dominating the dressing room like a school teacher, and instead have shown the value of building close relationships with their players, as Juergen Klopp, Mauricio Pochettino and Diego Simeone have forged winning machines held together by a cult-like devotion to their boss. So while Mourinho used his team's exit from the tournament to lay into underperforming players and poor squad construction, Nagelsmann celebrated with his players, who he allows to address him as an equal, using the informal German du instead of the respectful Sie. It may seem like a small thing, but details like this can foster a sense of togetherness, and with such a young squad, it's vital to get the entire team pulling in the same direction. So it may be that for all his tactical acumen, clever edges and work on the training ground, what ultimately sets Julian Nagelsmann apart is his ability to motivate the young men in his charge. When the German moves on, surely inevitable before too long, there seems to be no doubt that he's destined to lift the biggest trophies in the game. The only question is which team he ends up doing it with. So that's our scout report for this week, but what would you like to see us discuss on next week's episode? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to never miss a video. We'll see you next time.